Right, Kirk Collimore here. We have just 1 week left of the 2021 general session. Some of my bills are making their way through the Senate and onto the House at this point. A bill that I presented in committee this week has to do with the official language of Utah. 20 years ago, an initiative made English the official language of Utah, but as I looked into it, most people who supported that initiative thought that we were just going to declare English as the official language and didn't recognize all the other prohibitions that come with it that prevent government agencies from communicating with our multicultural communities and businesses owned by minorities and stuff like that. And so what this bill does is it still recognizes that English is the official language of Utah, but it allows government agencies like the Economic Development Office, DWS, the Health Department, and all that to reach out to those communities who are most in need. This became most apparent at the beginning of the pandemic when a lot of federal aid was coming in and they could not advertise, they could not create pamphlets, they could not send out the relief to the people who needed it most in these communities in their native tongue to help them get that relief. And so this bill will do that and also sends a message of inclusivity and reaching out to these communities. I never talked about the survey responses, but I want to know that that was tallied and we've got percentages, and that's kind of been the basis for a lot of the thought process that's gone into this session. So number one was 46% of respondents said that education was the number one concern or the number one priority of the legislative session. To that end, obviously before the session, huge investments were made into education. There's been, not only did we fund growth, but we added to the WPU and we're giving the teacher bonuses. And of course, there's still efforts with that. I have a particular bill that deals with the statewide online education program. With COVID, it's been apparent that there's been a big need for online education. I know even with some of my kids in my house, that high school has definitely had a different flavor this year, and why we love the high schools. You know, online options have become really a viable resource for us and something that we're having to look at. So this expands that and allows students to be able to take courses that may not be offered at their high school. Rural kids can take stuff that's not offered at their high schools. They can take more advanced classes. And so this provides that opportunity, and there's funding that goes along with that. The second priority for most respondents at 39% was economic development. I think that is especially pressing in this time after coming off a pandemic, and to that end, my Senate Bill 202, which provides economic relief for businesses most affected by COVID, has moved on to the House. As I mentioned last week, I'm on the Executive Appropriations Committee now, and so we are reviewing all the funding. The budget's going to come out soon, and I'm pretty optimistic that we're going to get a hefty amount to fund that program to get that relief out to these businesses that have been most affected by the pandemic. Not just businesses, but there's also a portion of that that's going to go to the arts. That's important to me. I was a music major. My kids participate in all the arts, and I love the arts. And so arts and entertainment are going to get a portion of this grant to go to those businesses who are most devastated by this. Finally, the next priorities were air quality, and obviously that's important. Fortunately, we've had a pretty good winter and haven't had too many inversions. But I've got a bill that's just getting released, and because it just got released, it's probably not going to make it through this session, but it'll be the starting point for ongoing discussions through the interim, and then we can run this bill next year. But it has to do with net metering and addressing the Power Service Commission's ruling about one-to-one net metering and lowering the export rate and the net metering credit. And so we want to incentivize solar power and solar panels and batteries and all that. Not only can it help our electrical grid, but obviously there are some environmental benefits as well. So I look forward to working on that, although a lot of that will happen through the summer and this next year.